Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another of Spark Crowdfunding's investor webinars. Thank you very much for joining us today. Today, we are showcasing another two excellent businesses that we have currently on the site at the moment. One is a medtech company, Pumpinheart, and the other one is a disruptive wholesale food technology company called UnifyOrdering. And I'll introduce you to both of those as the session goes on. They're both excellent campaigns, and they've both gone off to a great start on the platform with some significant funding already into them, and hopefully you'll be persuaded to look at it in a bit more detail after the sessions today. Just before we do that, I just want to go through a couple of things with you. First of all, we've now got over 12,000, almost 12,500 members on our database. Most of whom are based here in Ireland, but we've got many others dotted around the world as well. And of course, if you have got experience of good experience of Spark, we'd love you to kind of spread that word, and we get more investors in, if at all possible. We've also got news I've told people in the last webinar that we are now authorised by the Central Bank of Ireland. Over the last couple of years, year or so, Central Bank of Ireland have had to roll this out to all of the crowdfunding companies across Europe. And Central Bank of Ireland, of course, are our body that oversee a lot of the financial, all of the financial regulation here in Ireland. And now we are authorised as a European crowdfunding supplier. So that's another great accolade that we can talk about now as well. And of course, one of the other things as well is the EIS that I wanted to speak to you about. EIS is a lovely tax incentive that the government give out for early stage investment into businesses. And many of the companies that we have on the Spark platform do have EIS or are EIS qualifying companies, meaning that if you put an investment into that company, you will get an element of that money back in your as a tax benefit when you file your tax return the following year. Some of them can be up to 50%. Some of them, now that there's been a change in the law, some of them are down to 35 and 20%, but many of them are 50%, which is a great tax incentive to have. So going back to today, each of the companies is going to have about 12 or 13 minutes to present their presentation, and after which there'll be a question and answer session. Can I ask you that if you do want to ask a question, I please encourage you to do so, that you put it into the Q&A element of the thing, not into the chat. It gets very confusing for us trying to look at the questions and answers that way. But if you put it into the Q&A, we'll have a better chance of asking those questions for that. So first up is Pumpinheart. So Donald, perhaps I can ask you to turn your camera on, please, if you would. Donald is CEO of Pumpinheart. Donald has a Bachelor of Engineering degree from Trinity and a Master's in Industrial and Product Design. Before Pumpinheart, Donald was co-founder and CEO of Obsidian Technologies and has been instrumental in the growth and success of a number of other businesses over the years. Pumpinheart is a Royal College of Surgeons spin-out, and Donald is leading a very impressive team, many of whom are here on the call today again and will be there for the Q&A, and that has revolutionized the left ventricular medtech device to overcome the issue of severe heart failure. So, Donald, you're very welcome. Please start your presentation, and you can get started, and we'll see you in a few minutes for the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's a real pleasure to present.
Great stuff.
So, as Chris was saying a moment ago, Royal College of Surgeons, this is a spin-out from the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, which was and it was established in February 2022. So, what is advanced heart failure? Advanced stage heart failure patients present as breathless, even at rest, fail to pump blood around the body effectively, and over 2 million people in the USA, Canada, the UK, and Europe are affected by advanced stage diastolic heart failure, also known as heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, or HFpEF. This is the dominant type of heart failure and a growing public health problem. So in these patients, heart walls are stiff due to age and chronic hypertension as a result of obesity, diabetes, renal disease, and other health problems. They face a very grim and terminal prognosis with frequent long stays in hospital. Many will die. There are no available effective treatments. Neither drugs nor devices reduce morbidity nor mortality. So Pumpinheart's device aims to address the core problem of elevated cardiac pressures. It's a tiny pump the size of a AAA battery implanted in the left ventricle by an interventional cardiologist. As you can see here, the pump draws blood from the left atrium into the left ventricle during the resting phase of each cardiac cycle, and just enough to relieve the elevated pressure in the left atrium and ease congestion. This device would allow advanced stage HFpEF patients survive the stressful disease, return home, breathe freely, and lead active and fulfilling lives. The product consists of 3 platform technologies: the implant itself, which you can see here and which has just been demonstrated, which consists of a pump with frictionless motor and an anchoring mechanism, a transcatheter system for delivering and deploying the implant and power line, and a power and control unit, which is a subcutaneous can inserted below the left clavicle and recharged using transcutaneous energy transfer system. The timing is right, as these are maturing technologies. On the left, you can see this device being tested in a beating heart model at LifeTech in Eindhoven, with camera views of the device from above and below the mitral valve. To the right, you can see the device being tested in a pig at the Vernix Labs in Paris. In these in vitro, ex vivo, and in vivo tests, the device consistently lowered left atrial pressure by 10 millimeters of mercury. I can't emphasize the importance of this. This is between 2 and 3 times the target pressure reduction of 3 to 5 millimeters of mercury we know will deliver therapeutic benefit. And at the same time, the device increased cardiac output by over 1/3 of a liter per minute. So this was a fantastic set of results. So the market is enormous. Our research concludes that at a price of $50,000 per device, the cath lab implantation, the widespread availability of cath labs and associated periods, this is very attractive to both healthcare systems and payers alike. We forecast approximately 640 advanced stage HFpEF patients in 2030 as suitable candidates for implantation of this device, and this is a $32 billion total serviceable addressable market opportunity. That's $32 billion total serviceable addressable market opportunity. No devices, HFpEF. There are several devices at various stages of development, including several intra-atrial cardiac contractility modulation device and a diastolic heart pump. Intra-atrial shunt devices aim to reduce elevated pressures in the left atrium by shunting some of the pressure to the right atrium, but they're unsuited to the half of all HFpEF patients that are at risk of right ventricular failure and secondary pulmonary hypertension. And the only other diastolic heart pump in development requires open heart surgery that is totally unsuited to 99% of HFpEF patients due to age, obesity, hypertension, and/or diabetes. The opportunity is validated at the highest level by KOLs internationally, including Professor Robert Byrne of the RCSI. The team is a very strong team. We have Amr Hamid, the inventor of the device, who trained as a cardiothoracic surgeon before joining the RCSI and inventing the diastolic heart pump in 2018. Dr. Derek Colgan is a biomedical engineering graduate that was previously VP R&D Structural Heart Scientific and has extensive experience of taking transcatheter implantable cardiovascular devices from concept through to the market. Andrew Malone, postdoc researcher, designed and built a rig to test early prototypes before progressing to ex vivo and then in vivo animal trials. Well, I've already been introduced by Chris, so I won't go me, but I do have a background in running small companies and have I cut my teeth on medtech a couple of years ago. The group's advisory panel includes key opinion leading HFpEF researchers, initial customers that will form a network of trial sites for first-in-human clinical trials as well as other and the group also includes other mechanical circulatory support device developers, interventional cardiology device specialists, and life science industry business leaders. We have plenty of people who've done this before in our ecosystem advising us. We are seeking 5 million in total to achieve in Q1 2025 acute preclinical proof of technical concept with design freeze of this version of the production device and an acute transapical first-in-human clinical trial in 2026. We aim to achieve initial clinical data in 2026 with an acute transapical delivery system implanting the diastolic heart pump in the left ventricle of patients with end-stage severe mitral valve stenosis resulting from rheumatic endocarditis that is highly prevalent in South Asia, and in order to stabilize the patient for between 2 and 48 hours and to allow clinicians to prepare for surgery to repair or replace the stenosis valve. Alternatively, patients with end-stage amyloid myocarditis could be stabilized with this device in preparation for a cardiac transplant. This is a great opportunity for all investors, and we look forward to your joining us on this journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Donald. That's excellent. A great run through of the business. A number of questions have dropped into the Q&A, and please, just for a reminder, if you do have a question, please put it into the Q&A session, and we'll get on an answer. Today, I'm joined by Gary McCarthy. Gary is part of the team here at Spark Crowdfunding, and we will toggle and ask the questions so that we can actually read the others in between whilst we're hearing the answer as well. So Donald, it's probably useful if you switch off or unshare your screen for the moment, and we will. And if you need to kind of go back into it, of course, we can facilitate that. So. The first one is it's about how do you forecast the number of suitable candidates for implant of Pumpinheart?
Okay, that's a really excellent question. Thank you. So I hope you still have you can still hear me, because there was a bit of a break there, but that's an excellent question. So there are about 6 million advanced stage heart failure patients or heart failure patients in the US. And to those in Canada, the EU, and the UK, it brings you up to about 20 million. Of that, about 20% are at 18%, strictly speaking. About 20% are at advanced stage, and half those are diastolic heart failure. So you're looking at 2 million advanced stage diastolic heart failure patients. So we spoke to a whole bunch of different KOLs, key opinion leading clinical researchers in the US and in Europe. As far as field as Australia, and we asked them, showing our device, we said, what sort of numbers would be suitable candidates for implantation of this device? And we got back a whole range of answers depending on where they were, how aggressive their approach would be to intervention, and it came out as an average of about 29%. And that gave us a number of 640,000 candidates as being suitable for implant of this device. 640,000, that is, not 640.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Donald. Just another question, just first off, before I ask this question, just a little bit of housekeeping. In terms of questions coming in with regard to taxation or the mechanics of the deal, we'll probably save them for time saving purposes to just directly query with the Spark representatives. But on the Pumpinheart product, Donald, there was one question in regard to the licensing agreements with the Royal College of Surgeons and how royalty payments are treated, or even the rights to purchase the intellectual property from Royal College of Surgeons. If you can just touch that a little bit.
Yes, that's a very good question. So the royalty agreement, I can't say what the percentage is. That's confidential. The agreement does not include a right to purchase their to buy them out of the royalty. So that does not include that clause.
Sorry, do you want to expand on that, please, there, Donald? Sorry, what it does?
The question relates to the fact that the RCSI will receive a royalty. It's a relatively small, a very low single-figure percentage royalty on sales. the intellectual property is ultimately owned by the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland, and then Pumpinheart has an exclusive license to that. We also then submit our own patents. So we have built up our own patent portfolio. But ultimately, we will be there is the agreement with the RCSI is a royalty agreement for, as I say, a small single-digit figure percentage, which I'm not allowed to share.
Yeah, no, that's that's understandable. And that is very normal for all spin-outs out of universities and third-level institutions. So that's not, and of course that license is in perpetuity as well. There's no timestamp on that, I think. Is that right?
That is correct. There is no time stamp on that.
Right, very good. Okay. So there's a question here. What intervention treatment does Pumpinheart replace? Is there something that actually exists there at the moment that you're trying to replace, or is this a novel piece of infrastructure that you'll be building and inserting into the heart?
So the gold standard treatment for advanced stage diastolic heart failure is simply to try and manage the patient in terms of keeping the heart pressure as low as possible, diuretics, etc. There is actually nothing they can do for these patients. That is what's so frustrating for the clinicians. It's extremely expensive. It's $100 billion burden on healthcare systems. So these patients present at hospital breathless. They become a bed blocker in effect. Or if they are managed to be stabilized enough to send them home, they're back again. They're known as frequent flyers in hospital. So as a result, these patients who mainly 65, 2 to 1, twice as many women suffer from this as men, and also the disease, diastolic heart failure disproportionately affects, people of color and also disadvantaged groups. So it tends to be these people do not do well in hospital. Many of them die in hospital. Hospital mortality rates for diastolic heart failure are very high.
So of course, there's just as an extension to that, of course the cost of for the hospitals and the health services is huge. Whereas if this intervention could work and be implanted into these patients, they would leave hospital, and the health.
If you think about it, who's paying for this and who's benefiting from this? The people who are paying for it are the national healthcare systems, the same people who are running the hospitals, in effect. Yeah. So the national healthcare systems get to, it's a win-win for them. They get to pay for this procedure to be carried out quickly with a one night overnight stay, and the patient is discharged from a hospital to live at home. The patient, of course, benefits from the fact that they get to survive this dreadful disease, and the clinicians who prescribe this, because ultimately the clinicians are our customers, the clinicians get to treat a patient. So, which is what they really want to do. They want to be able to help their patients and not be unable to help their patients.
Gary.
Donald, can you just talk us through the exit mechanism? I suppose that's on the minds of every investor always, and where you see that coming from for Pumpinheart, and just while I ask that question, because it's relevant to, I suppose, the gains and the exits and the I suppose the returns to investors. Just a quick reminder that Pumpinheart comes under the EIS rebate band of 50%. So that is actually what is on the table for investors today. But going swiftly to the exit, Donald, if you could talk us through that, that'd be great.
So the exit there are obviously, when you start a medtech, you can grow it in different ways and with different strategies. We have a very clear strategy about what we want to do. We want to build it to the point that it is a suitable acquisition target for a strategic. That is a Johnson & Johnson, a Boston Scientific, an Abbott, or one of these other multinational medtech manufacturers. And there are lots of reasons why that makes a lot of sense for this type of device. There are a lot of reasons why it makes a lot of sense for a device manufacturer to want to acquire a business like ours. So what sort of shape does that take? Well, we can look at, obviously it depends on which manufacturer you're talking to, but if we just talk about Boston Scientific's acquisition, say, of Farapulse. So they acquired another structural heart electrophysiology device developer called Farapulse. And what they did is, as they got to the point that they needed money to conduct an early feasibility study, they took it. Boston Scientific took it sort of 28% or so in Farapulse, with an option to the remainder of the shares, the balance of the shares outright, with various earnouts that ended up the total purchase price was around $450 million in the end for Farapulse, and that's very much the sort of ballpark that we're targeting, and that's how we would expect investors. Obviously this is risky, and we have to get through a whole bunch of regulatory hurdles and a lot of technical challenges, but we have plans to deal with those. And once we get through all of that, we would expect a much more than 10x return on investment for these investors before the device even gets to market.
Thanks, Donald. And if I could just return to the device, I'm going to try and bundle 2 or 3 of these questions on the device. In no particular order, what's the projected useful lifespan of the implanted unit? The second one, if you any comment on Shockwave, which I know has appeared in the M&A pages of the financial newspapers recently, is that a competitor? And also the impact of Wegovy GLP-1 inhibitors, which are associated with a lot of these diet weight loss drugs, that also have cardiac benefits. Are they a significant threat? So just, I suppose, the competitive landscape and the lifespan of the device.
Again, really good question. We'll talk about Shockwave first of all. So Johnson & Johnson bought Shockwave for about 13 billion, and that purchase by Johnson & Johnson of Impella from a Biomed, that is for about 16 billion a few years ago. So Johnson & Johnson want to own heart failure. I mean, that's pretty much what they're saying. And they're doing this through acquisition, and they're not shy of spending a lot of money to get there. Now, the next question you asked then is around the different drugs that are coming online to treat obesity, hypertension, Wegovy, Ozempic, and there are others, so SGLT2 inhibitors and other drugs. Well, with these drugs can treat. Actually, they because they treat obesity, they do have an impact on the number of people who will develop HFpEF, because that's a major cause of developing diastolic heart failure. Equally, hypertension, chronic hypertension, cause of the part of the same problem, cause of developing heart failure with preserved ejection fraction and HFpEF. But ultimately, when we speak to interventional cardiologists, people in the field, and we ask them what their thoughts about this, they will say, well, yes, there may be an impact in terms of people, reducing the number of people developing advanced stage heart failure. But what they find is the vast majority of people presenting to them are already at an advanced stage. So the people don't seek treatment until they get really to quite an advanced stage, at which point there is nothing you can do. And that's when we come in, when there is nothing else you can do.
Very good. Okay. Couple more. Can you talk about any patents you have, either within RCSI or in post RCSI, i.e. within Pumpinheart itself? And also, can you give us a kind of a timeline of where we actually get to design freeze, testing, and first in human as well, please, if you could, Donald?
Okay, well, I can't talk too much about patents, obviously, but I can talk about the fact that we did talk earlier about the fact that the patent that submitted by RCSI, and to which we have an exclusive license, has been making good progress through the patent process. So it's been reviewed, it's now published, and it's available for anyone to see online. I think we included a link if you go to the Spark crowdfunding page, you will see details on the link to that. There are other patents that we're submitting around the device, which is effectively the minimum viable product version of our device, being developed for the first in human. That's a separate patent. I can't talk about that at all at the moment for obvious reasons. And then, of course, at every point in the development, we identify different unique of the ingenious and the patentable aspects of the design that we are continuing to do that. We already have at least 2 right now on top of the the RCSI patent that we're looking at.
Okay.
Now, in terms of, sorry, what was the other question? That was the patent question. What was the second question?
The other question was the timeline for testing, design freeze testing, and further first in humans.
Oh, very good point. Okay, so the first deadline for, or rather, the plan is to develop to the point of proof of concept and design freeze in mid next year, so second quarter of next year, and then 12 months later to conduct a first in human trial in Karachi in Pakistan at the Sindh Institute of Transplantation with a fantastic team we've got to know.
Very good. Okay, we've got time for one more question, and I'll just going to throw that out to you. The lifespan actual of the implanted unit. How long? There are 3 elements to it. There's the element that goes in the ventricle. There's the battery pack, I think, as well. What is the lifespan for that in the body?
I'm going to say 10 years, but at this point, I'm going to refer you to our CTO, Dara Colgan. Dara, take it.
Right. Thanks, Donald. Yeah, essentially, we will prove that the lifespan of the anchoring mechanism, which is probably the key structural component of the device, we would follow typical guidance for structural heart devices of 10 years, which is 600 million cycle testing. So equally, the reliability of pump would be something similar. Now, the battery would be recharged daily, essentially every second day, with a transcutaneous energy transfer system, like a vest. Patient would wear a vest. It would charge the battery that's in a battery, in a pacemaker can below the surface. And it would also be our intention to understand that should the pump then reach its end of life, that it isn't actually then creating any adverse conditions. It just stops rotating. However, we do expect that this really is an end of life, and to improve end of life, and not an implant for somebody that to survive a significant amount of time.
Okay. Dara, thank you very much indeed. And with that, I think we'll leave it now. There are loads more questions, and I will get those out to you, and you can type a response, and we can post those back onto the website. So, Donald, thank you, and the rest of your team, thank you very much indeed. And we will leave that there for the moment, and we'll go on to Unify Ordering. So thank you very much indeed, guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so next up is Unify Ordering. Barry, if you are there, perhaps you can turn on your camera. Donald, you can kind of exit stage left. Barry, good to see you. Thank you very much. Barry is CEO of Unify Ordering. Barry has a BCom from UCD and a master's from Smurfit Business School, and is joined today by Pat McIntyre, one of his kind of team in one of the team in Unify Ordering too. Barry is CEO and co-founder of a number of businesses: Junior's Deli, Paulie's Pizzas, and Lots & Co. And has been running these 3 businesses for some years. And it is running these businesses that Barry actually saw the huge issues around ordering and tracking of wholesale foods, and saw the opening for Unify Ordering. And that is what we're going to hear about today. So Unify Ordering is a platform that is disrupting the wholesale food ordering process, which is a problem worldwide. Unify Ordering has ambitions to scale across Europe and beyond. So, guys, you're very welcome. And if you'd like to kind of share your presentation, you can get cracking with that. You have 12 or so minutes to do that, and then we will go on to Q&A again. So I'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Barry McNerney, as Chris kindly introduced me. I suppose you could describe me as a serial entrepreneur. I opened my first business in 2008 after exiting the financial industry. And I opened a restaurant with my brother called Juniors in Dublin 4. Maybe some of you might be familiar with it. We started that business with just 20,000 euros investment. We opened it up, during the middle of a recession, but it actually went from strength to strength. And then we reinvested those funds into Pauli's Pizza, which was one of Ireland's first, wood-fired pizzerias. They're pretty ubiquitous now, but we were at the start of it. And then we opened the Old Spot Gastro Pub. And then for my sins, I got into the food retail world and opened Lots & Co. Grocery, which we've now grown to 3 outlets, and it's one of Dublin's largest independent food retailers. But I suppose I want to give that introduction because I just want to explain that I know what it's like to take something from nothing to something, and I'm also deeply embedded in the food and wholesale food and drinks industry, and what that entails. But what we've basically, what I've seen is, even though I have a cash register for my sales and on a daily basis, I know exactly how much each one of my businesses made. I also have staff rostering systems and, tools for reporting to the revenue what my staff cost on a weekly basis. But because of the way bricks and mortar businesses purchase their goods, they have absolutely no information in real time about what the value of their purchases are. And as a result, they have no idea about what their profitability is. So it's kind of against this backdrop that we developed UnifyOrdering in 2018. So just to give you kind of a brief outline of how the hospitality industry works and how wholesale food purchasing works. Generally, buyers, which are restaurants, cafes, bars, pubs, as we call them in UnifyOrdering, meet suppliers. They go to a trade show, or a sales rep might call into their business. They'll look at the goods that are being supplied, or maybe they'll know about different suppliers through word of mouth or through experience. And then when a business wants to start a relationship with a supplier, they have to fill out an account form. And generally, one restaurant or a buyer might have 10 to 15 different suppliers, but they'll fill out the exact same account form with all of the same details for each one of these individual suppliers. And then when that account is set up, the sales rep will generally give them a product brochure, a physical product brochure, which has lots of prices or maybe even no prices, but all of them which are not related to what the customer actually pays. And a lot of time this product brochure is out of date the minute that it's printed, and it's very costly for the supplier to print. Then the different staff members, will build orders for different goods that they need throughout the day, either on scraps of paper or in a hardback book. They'll then pass that information about what they want to order to a head chef or manager, who generally, aggregates all those different orders and then phones it or emails it through to their wholesale supplier. Then that wholesale supplier receives this order via email or on a phone message, generally late at night. They then have to pay staff to come in very early in the morning to listen to these voicemails or emails and transcribe them into their own ERP system. And as you can see all along the way, there's huge amounts of places for human error and mistakes on orders. Then that order is used to create, an invoice, which is then used as a picking sheet. Then when the order is delivered to the premises again, it has to be physically checked by somebody who's, receiving the goods. And then all of that information is then put on a docket spike for a bookkeeper or an accountant to manually enter into an accounting system. As a result, maybe 6 weeks later or a couple of months later, the business might find out how much they've actually purchased. And I know for myself, before we used UnifyOrdering, very often we'd have months where we had very good sales, but because of the way we'd purchase and we hadn't managed our gross profit margin, we actually didn't make any money that period. So it was against this backdrop that UnifyOrdering was created. So when we originally started UnifyOrdering, we just wanted to fix food buying for the buyer. So we built a very simple collaborative ordering platform that allowed businesses to add as many staff members as they want. And then the different staff members are able to collaborate on these orders and send them through to any wholesale supplier. So it didn't require the supplier to participate or provide the products in order for UnifyOrdering to work. We built a very simple user experience because I knew from working with my brother and working with chefs that this product had to be as simple and as easy as using a telephone or even sending an email. So all of a sudden, with the UnifyOrdering platform, I had full traceability and control over all of the goods that were being purchased for my business. And I was able to know the value of the goods that were being purchased in real time, which allowed me to understand the profitability of my business. So we started sending these orders out to lots of different suppliers. And as I said, originally, we just looked at developing this to fix it for one side of the process, which was the food buyer. But when we started sending out these orders to suppliers, they actually started to get in touch with us and said, what is the product that you're using? Because as I've explained, the ordering process for wholesale suppliers was probably even more difficult. They were receiving hundreds of voicemails, emails, all through these different channels. They had to pay lots of people to come in and translate all these orders into their own ERP system. So what UnifyOrdering did was we created a platform that allowed a supplier to fully digitize their product brochure and put it into their customers' hands 24/7 with live special offers and new products, even personalized pricing. So the net result was that we were able to help the supplier increase their sales by putting that brochure in there through special offers as well. And then when these orders came in, we were able to integrate them directly into their ERP system. We're actually even at a point now where we have a full two-way integration with the supplier's ERP system. So we're able to pull in all the prices, all of the products, and then when the orders come in, we're able to send them straight through. So the net result is we basically reduce the costs for suppliers, reduce all the human error by as much as 85%, and also reduce the cost by that much. But by fixing the ordering process for both buyers and suppliers, what we organically created is a network of buyers and suppliers. And this is allowing them to meet and connect and start, trying to do business in a completely new way. And this is something that we're going to use the funding from Spark to really thrash out and really build out the potential of that market. One of the really strong things about UnifyOrdering is the way that it grows. We don't have any customer acquisition costs because we outsource that to all of the users on the platform. So how UnifyOrdering works, generally, a buyer will come onto the platform, they'll start ordering with their suppliers start to receive orders, and we start to push information about the benefits of using ordering, the ability to reduce their costs. They get in touch with us, we onboard them, we digitize their product brochure, they upload their customers, and then they invite their customers to the platform. Then those customers start ordering with that supplier, they start to add their other suppliers, and it naturally grows. So we started back in 2018 with one wholesale supplier and about 40 buyers, and just through our natural viral growth model, we've grown to become Ireland's largest B2B food ordering platform, with about 15% of the Irish market currently using it. So to date, last month we processed over 65,000 orders through the platform with an order value of around 20 million euros. And that figure is growing by about 5% month on month. We think we'll probably process over 70,000 orders for a value of about 22 million euros next month. So we're on the Spark platform because we want to raise 200,000 euros. We are operating a tight team at the moment. Our burn is probably about 10,000, but we expect to get to break even towards the end of this year. And the Spark funding will allow us to fully round out the product suite and start to grow into markets outside of Ireland. So we're already doing pilots in Canada and also starting them in the UK as well. And the problems that buyers are experiencing here in Ireland are the exact same all around the world. And with the B2B food purchasing in Ireland alone, worth about 3 billion, the UK is worth about 10x, and each year in the EU, B2B food purchasing is worth about €500 billion. So the size of the market and the number of operators is absolutely massive. So we're looking forward to working with Spark to fully take advantage of this opportunity. And we think within the next 5 years, we can see a massive return and a massive exit for all of our investors.
Excellent. Barry, thank you very much indeed. That was very, very comprehensive and very timely too. So thanks very much. So there's a number of questions that have come in. First one is about Procure Wizard. So this is obviously one of your competitors. Can you perhaps give us what is your USP versus Procure Wizard, and let us know about that? And you might actually just switch off your or go back to another slide if you wish.
Yes, so Procure Wizard is really the incumbent in the market. And the unique thing about UnifyOrdering is, one, that it allows the restaurant to order with any supplier. It doesn't require the supplier to participate, and that's a key component in our viral growth strategy. The other thing, like Procure Wizard only looks after one side of the equation, so it only looks after the restaurant or the food buying side. And I suppose, what the way we started was we started with the user experience and needed to make the user experience really easy and really simple and easy to use. And then we're trying to graduate on to bring in all of the accounting side, and we're integrating with software packages like Xero. We're also starting to bring in point of sale information from the likes of Square and Toast and different POS systems. So we started with the user experience and graduated onto the accounting. I think ProcureWiz has started with the accounting, but the user experience is not so good. So we, as I said, ProcureWiz would have to sell, and the customer acquisition cost, they have to sell to that product each time, whereas we use the suppliers to invite their customers, and we outsource our sales to them.
Very good. And two follow-ons from that. Someone's asking about the excuse me, the competitor landscape. So are there any others in there as well? And also, do you have a differentiator that can prevent just somebody else creating a similar platform?
Well, I think one of the advantages for the investors coming in, I'll start with the question about the similar platform, is that there's a lot of intricacies into how food is being purchased, and I suppose it's probably one of the most complicated products that you can order, because retail products are actually a lot more simple, but with food you have to figure out how to, somebody wants to order a side of salmon, the weight of which is you can't discern until it's actually put on the scales and stuff like that. So I suppose the advantage for the Spark investors and people coming in now is we've had 5 years of really researching every single aspect of the wholesale food and understanding every single different stakeholder that's in there. And it's a really extremely quite complicated product behind the scenes, even though it looks very simple. And I just don't think that's something that can be easily replicated by somebody else coming in, or else it would take a lot of investment. And I think in terms of long term, what an exit strategy for us would be is probably, I think that we're working towards providing a full snapshot of the profitability of your business, pulling in all your point of sale data, and also processing payments on the platform. So I think a system that captures all of the information and is able to show profitability in real time. Point of sale systems like Square, Toast, they'll ultimately be who might look to acquire us.
Very good. Gary.
Thanks, Barry. There was one question to follow on from you. It's the, as you say, the merchant driven, the supplier driven, and looking at the numbers that you have on board already. Clearly, you may not be able to mention all of them or some of them, but these big multinational names that appear, can they be helpful to you in terms of your international strategy? Obviously, in other countries, given their presence there, or how does that work? And I suppose the follow-on question in terms of, I suppose, expansion would be in your fundraise that you're doing with Spark. What percentage is spent on expansion versus technology? Just a breakdown of where the funds will be spent.
Yeah, I suppose some of the big names that would be on our platform would be kind of well-known names like Coca-Cola. So we also allow a supplier to either choose that they want to take payment through the platform, or else they can actually manage their payments directly with their customers. So Coca-Cola is a company that manages their payments through UnifyOrdering. So at every event that you might see over the summer, like Electric Picnic or All Together Now, or any of these ones, Coca-Cola have exclusivity over all of the vendors in there, and so they have to purchase their goods from Coca-Cola. So all of those little vendors within these festivals have to purchase from Coca-Cola, and they do so through our platform, and we take a percentage of each one of those transactions that happen. And we'll be doing that again this year. And I think we might look to go to the UK and replicate that as well for different festivals there. Coca-Cola Ireland did research for lots of different international companies, and we were the best solution for them to manage that type of thing. There's other big names on the platform like Bunzl, who are traded on the FTSE. They do a lot of their things. Then good Irish names like FX Buckley and Sheridan's Cheese and stuff would be on the platform as well. So I think there's definitely an opportunity, and we were already processing orders for lots of different suppliers outside of Ireland. So Irish companies purchasing from suppliers in the UK. So I think, our strategy really is that we want to make sure that we have an absolutely scalable and repeatable sales process before we look to expand, because, that's going to be more expensive, and we want to really round out the product suite here before we look to expansion. So I think, we probably look to spend probably 30% of the funds that we raise on expansion, and 70% will be finishing, the product development here in Ireland. But once the product has been developed, it's really done, and then it's a case we're going to shift from a current strategy of building out the product to scaling. So at the moment, we're probably spending 70 on development and 30% on sales. I think in 12 months time, or even 18 months time, it's going to be 70% on scaling and 30% on just maintaining the tech stack.
Just to follow on that though, the product is fully developed. It needs further development, of course, as well, but it's fully operational and is working obviously with all of these clients at the moment. So just wanted to mention that. A couple of questions in around sales strategy, licensing model, business. So what is the licensing model? Perpetual versus subscription? I think you mentioned subscription. Perhaps you can just kind of talk about that and how is it metered and charged? And also maintenance and support, how is that handled as well, please?
Yeah, well, Pat, do you want to come in on this, or?
Work away, Barry. I'll come in. I might jump in as you're answering.
So we have, for suppliers, we charge a fixed monthly charge of €89 per month, and then we charge per active customer. So that allows us to scale with larger organizations. So a small supplier will pay €89, and if they have 30 customers active, and that's an additional 90 or so, 179. And then you might have another very large supplier who would, like say, Keeling's Fruit and Veg would be another, well-known name that uses our platform. They might have 1,500 active customers. So that would be 1,500 customers times 3, which is 4.5 plus €89 per month. And that's really how it works on the supplier side. And then on the buyer side, we have a premium product. So customers can come in for free. They can add all their staff and they can order with all their suppliers. But if they want to be able to check in their orders, if they want to be able to create departments and create rules for what their users can do on the platform, we charge them €49 per month per location. And so at the moment we are making, this month in March, we'll probably make just shy of €30,000 MRR. And we think, the Irish market could be worth up to €150,000-200,000 per month alone. And then obviously you can see, if you look to the UK, it's 10 times that. If you look to EU, it's another 10 times what the UK and Ireland is. So the market size, the number of participants is absolutely massive. And I think there's, definitely an awareness now that you have to digitize in order to stay competitive, because previously you used to be able to run a business, set a price that made sense, pay your staff, but with inflation in cost of goods, you have to be watching your margins like an absolute hawk. And really that's the advantage, and that's the place that UnifyOrdering sits and what we can offer for businesses going forward into the future.
Yeah, I guess just as I'm Pat McIntyre, director of the company, I guess we're in a position at the moment where we're moving from having invested a lot in our product build and development to the shift to the monetization process. And we see a lot of opportunities for monetization, some that Barry has already outlined and we're implementing. And clearly the transactions on platform part of the monetization, particularly as we go international, is a key part of where we're going to go with this. We already have a number of small suppliers and big supplier on transaction and platform, which is us taking a percentage of the order value. And that's something we see that we can grow in the Irish market, but particularly in the international markets. So monetization is there just simply that transaction platform potential is there simply because it's there. But also we find that even with big companies, some of the big suppliers who traditionally had everybody on account, because of the nature of the business, and particularly over the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years, where a lot of let's say buyers, and particularly new buyers coming in, the supplier was cautious of bringing them on account. They might not have had a credit history. So there's a whole set of transactions in the system which will move towards a transaction on platform versus payment for an order, simply because it allows a buyer immediately to buy from any supplier, or a supplier to allow any buyer buy from them without worrying about the credit issues. So we're seeing that beginning to open up. And as we looked at our pilot in Canada, showed us that also it was exactly the same picture, probably larger than we were seeing here. So in terms of monetization, a lot of our work activity and focus over the coming months and years are actually opening up the monetization channels, and transaction and platform being a very important part of that equation.
Gary?
Yeah, quick question just on I suppose more on the platform element of it, the ability, not just the scalability, but just to add on extra features. So, for example, multi-currency, does that facilitate at the moment payments in multiple currencies? And the second question is really, given its platform status, is there a plan? Is there a possibility for, I suppose, transport logistics providers, between buyer seller also, at some point be part of the platform, or is that in the thinking at all?
Yeah, well, I suppose firstly on the logistics side of things, we see the kind of the future of the industry being that a supplier is going to want to, they don't want to pay people to be in their back office listening to voice messages. They also don't want the credit risk of, buyers defaulting, and they don't want to be paying somebody to chasing accounts and stuff like that. So the platform, basically, we're going to release within the next 12 months a discovery-only marketplace. So that's going to allow buyers to go in and search by a product, by supplier, find a particular product, connect with a supplier and purchase those goods upfront, or else create an account through the platform. And we could get to a point where, there could be some sort of a fintech play where, a buyer signs up with UnifyOrdering and then has access to the marketplace. And that way the supplier, reduces their risk of default because they're actually getting paid from UnifyOrdering. And we can use the number of different buyers on the platform to negotiate a good price. So long term, we see people actually signing up to UnifyOrdering, accessing the marketplace, and rather than having to fill out multiple accounts and have multiple relations with multiple suppliers, they have a simplified accounting process just with the UnifyOrdering marketplace. So that's ultimately where we want to get to, and that's the real opportunity. And as I said, in a market worth €500 billion each year in the EU alone, even if we're taking a very small percentage of the transactions that go through there, the return is absolutely massive. And in terms of the competitor landscape, there's very, very few other people in this market doing this, which is strange considering that B2B purchasing is such a valuable thing and such a key component of a huge number of businesses. And, the solution that we're creating is applicable also to other industries outside of food and drink. We've had inquiries from pharmacies who also don't have a system for their purchasing. We've had inquiries from sort of hairdressers and all that kind of thing as well, who don't have a system. So that's the opportunity that we're pursuing. Yeah.
And on the multi-currency side, just so let's finish out that was the.
Already on the multi-currency side, we're already doing pilots in Canada and the UK, so that's already done, and we also take in different tax codes and all that kind of stuff from different VAT and everything. So yeah, we've already done that.
As if Donald's coming in to answer one of the questions as well. But anyway, that's time for, I'd say, one more, maybe two more questions. You mentioned there about the further progression of the business. One of the questions is the markup paid currently? Is the markup paid by the customer or the supplier? Perhaps you could answer that one at the moment, please, Barry.
At the moment, basically the price is set by the supplier, and it's and we just take a percentage of that, and the customer would pay the regular amount, and we sit in the middle of that transaction. So I mean, a lot of the orders are paid, are off the platform, and it's just a direct relation. We just facilitate the ordering and all that kind of stuff. But as we move towards more transactions on platform, we just take a percentage of the price that the cost that is set by the supplier.
So currently, the platform with the SaaS model that you have, i.e., kind of charging for the number of customers that they have and the actual, there's no transactional markup that you're getting at that at the moment. It's just the smoothing out, if you like, of the ordering process. But well, you will move towards that incremental difference at some stage.
So if you'd have asked me that question 2 months ago, I would have said yes. 100% of all the transactions, in that SaaS model are off the platform. But what we're allowing now to suppliers to do is choose what between their customers. So some of them might be transactional, but if somebody connects with them for the first time, maybe for the first 5 or 6 transactions, they'll look for payment through the platform to prove creditworthiness and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So we're kind of, it's a hybrid. And we obviously, if you look at the number of orders that have transactions on platform, it's probably at about 2%. 6 months ago, it was at 0%. We think within 12, 18 months, it's probably going to be to 5%. And again, yeah, when we're processing, even at the moment, we're processing over 20 million euros worth of orders each month. If we were taking 5% of all of those orders, you can do the math.
Right.
It's
Yeah. So at the
30%.
moment, just to clarify, we do have one major supplier who we can't name specifically for that, whose transactions on the platform only. And then we have a number of smaller suppliers, but that's allowed us actually, we built the technology and we built we have the capability to do it, and we're testing it and refining it with those. And as Barry has mentioned, others that we'll add on as we go. Yeah.
But just not to get too caught up on the transactional platform, there's very, very sizable revenue that can be generated from the SaaS model. And it's not going to be a situation where we're going to shift from a SaaS model to a transactions on platform. We'll have a SaaS model in addition to transactions on platform. So, the number of different places where revenue can be generated through the platform is massive. And we're making meaningful revenue at the moment of about 30,000 euros per month with a very small team, as we're building key parts of the product.
Okay, time for a 30-second answer to this last question. What is the HR cost time benefit for both the supplier and the food purchaser? What are they getting out of this?
So for the foods supplier, we estimate that we saved them about 85% compared to paying somebody to do manual processing. So that's, paying somebody, it's a very sizable, and suppliers understand the need to digitize. So the other alternative is for them to develop their own platform, but that could cost 100,000 euros or more, and then ongoing costs to maintain. And it also means that the food buyer will have 20 different applications for 20 different suppliers. So we believe that the only thing that's going to work is one application that works for both the wholesaler and the supplier. And on the buyer side, we estimate that we can save up to 4 hours per week in labor just on the order compilation. And then we're also automating their bookkeeping and stock taking. So the time savings and the value is massive.
Very good. Guys, thank you very much indeed. That was very comprehensive as well. Thank you very much for your time on that. So, guys, so investors and participants in the webinar, you've heard now from two very good high-class businesses that we've got live on the business on the platform at the moment. Pumpinheart valuation of 3 million with a 50% EIS bonus on that. UnifyOrdering valuation of 3.5 million with a 20% EIS tax incentive. So there's some great incentives to encourage you to invest into the businesses. And of course, as always, if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with any of the team from either company or both companies, we'd be delighted to facilitate that, and we can set up a Zoom or even a in-person meeting as well if that was required. So, guys, thanks very much. I think that's it for today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you very much. Cheers all.